we'll see if that works. All right, so
my kids are going to college.
So now, are your kids going to college?
Not until they get one trade. That's the rule.
What is the rule?
One successful trade that they can support themselves with before they're allowed to go to college.
A trade.
Yes.
Trade.
What about like being a pimp?
That's not really a
That's not
trade.
good
It's
trade.
not a trade. Seems like a trade. I mean, it's kind of sales.
It's not, like sales isn't a trade. They have to have a skill that when the world crashes and everything falls apart, that they could actually trade, barter with. They have to have a skill.
Sex is something that you can barter with.
Yeah, it's the oldest profession.
It's like the best thing.
But I don't want my daughters to be whores. So.
Okay. All right. Okay. So pimps off the table.
Yeah.
All right. So
What about your kids? Are they going to college?
are my kids going to college? I'll probably have to choose which one's my dumbest kid, and then maybe not them. But then I think I loved college.
Yeah, I love college too.
And I would not be a fan of spending money on a degree that doesn't have a very specific purpose. So,
I disagree. I think the purpose of college is to learn how to think.
Yes, exactly. I think the purpose of college is learn how to think. Certain degrees teach you how to think. There was a kid that sat in that chair about 3 days ago, and I was fixing his phone screen, and chat. Okay, so you're a local local grad. Okay, what are you doing now? Oh, you're in college. What's your major? And his major was some kind of a fine art degree. And I said, how are you going to turn that into money? And he said, well, it was like I was the first time he'd ever thought about that. And he's like, well, I guess we'll just figure that out as we go along, huh? That's the kind of thing where I'm not sure I'd pay the bill for that. Would you pay for that, Mark?
Hell no.
Would you? To be a fine arts where, how are you going to turn that into money? I don't know, Mom. It's just fun. I just like it.
That is
I don't know. I don't think my husband would. I think I would.
Yeah, you would. You would pay for it. You would pay for a
If
basket.
they were really
degree.
passionate about it, yeah.
Why?
If they felt that this could make them happy, I want them to be happy.
You want them to be happy.
Yeah. If that made them happy.
I think I get it.
My sister went to college got a fine arts degree.
Is she happy?
Yeah.
Does she use her degree?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, there's plenty of fine art. My husband went to school for fine arts. He's very successful.
All right.
If you use it like a trade and not just say I'm going to be an artist.
Yeah, I would require, you can do fine arts as long as you also major in business. Or something like that. Or go get some kind of business experience. I'm not really sure. All right, let's see. Are you going to teach that lady how to micro solder? No. No, I'm not.
No.
Because Dina doesn't need to know how to micro solder.
I have a trade.
Dina has a trade. That's right. She already has a trade. So this is my good friend, Dina Newman, from my old days teaching college at Rochester Institute of Technologies. There's a college up the street, and Dina is still at RIT, and Dina is a fantastic research scientist, and she is a fantastic educator. So she spends all day, every day teaching people how to think about science, right?
Right.
And there's actually kind of a lot of similarities. So she's over here because she came to hang out. She had a wet iPhone 5S that the last time that iPhone 5S needed a screen swap, she came over and she brought her daughter, and I made her daughter change the screen. So before Dina actually showed up, she was like, oh, guess what? Genevieve fixed that phone. Great. Yeah. So she's just here to chat. So we thought it would be fun to kind of show you guys a little bit about one of the things that Dina's working on for education research and see what you guys thought. Because a lot of YouTube folks in the repair family, a lot of times is thumbs down on higher ed. And so I want to just kind of talk about that and see if we can kind of flesh out ideas and your thoughts on ways to make education, especially higher education, work better than it does now. So let's see what you guys have to say here. Well, that's a lot. So this is the live chat window, and this is we'll go
isn't
really
what they were
quickly.
looking for, huh?
Oh, they're fine.
Okay.
Let's see. This is.
Did you buy
Yeah, was that might be from earlier. Stream down, blah, blah, blah. That was scrolling too far back into the last stream. Let's see. Where does this stream start? Usually it starts with like highs. Let's see. Scandinavia, what? All right, we have to, when was all of this 5:30 stuff? I don't remember that. Hi, hello, hi. Yes, there we go. Woohoo, genetics. See? Hi,
Yay.
let's do this. Hi,
Somebody
hi,
likes
hi,
genetics.
hi. Regards. World's first job. Oh yeah, the prostitution, yes.
Oh.
Chris Long, I shouldn't have gone to college. Why do you think that, Chris Long? Chris Long is a guy in Kentucky who has a very sharp analytical mind. But he didn't do well in college. Why do you think that is, Chris? And he's now gone on to kind of do a business similar to this one in Kentucky. Never mind, it's the world's oldest profession, not necessarily the first. I'm glad you're on. Somehow I wasn't able to be notified. Sorry about that. Who says life wouldn't be different now if I hadn't gone to college? I don't really know. Aaron says, I'm glad I went to college and that I largely paid for it myself while going by working. I think that's good. No, the purpose of college is re-education. It's a liberal farm. Re-education. That's just
In
words.
what way?
That's just words. Words don't mean anything unless you put them together in a logical construct so that we can understand the spirit of what you're trying to say. Otherwise, you're just kind of copy and pasting douchebag sentiment from the other side of the internet, and it just sounds like 4chan. Chris Long went to school for mechanical engineering and because a phone repair specialist. Let's see. It's a requirement to be red-pilled to attending any post-second educational institution, especially in my. I'm guessing in my, you mean New York. That's, again, just 4chan talk. So, just string together words that make sense, and then we can talk to you. Otherwise, it just sounds like, blah.
Sounds like uneducated people didn't go to college.
Engineers unite.
Now you sound like one of those East Coast elites.
You better watch out. Yeah, you
Exactly
get a
what I
little.
am. How about that?
College is becoming a social justice warrior. Black Lives Matter. Dude, stop yelling. Just ask Lewis. Oh. Here's the thing. You know what? When you bring up Lewis and Lewis's views, one of his cornerstone views is this idea of making arguments rather than just sort of spouting out nonsense. So when you type in all caps something like college is becoming a social justice warrior, Black Lives Matter, Antifa, leftist, communist cesspool, just ask Lewis. That is just words. That's like saying you could change every single one of those adjectives for, a color. College is becoming orange, red, purple, yellow, green. Just ask Lewis. That you have to add context to an argument. Otherwise, it's just noise. I just watched your video on camera. I'm having problem, blah, blah, blah. All right, so again, just to be clear, if you want to ask a problem about your iPhone problem, post on a forum, and we'll talk about it, or maybe I'll come around and check out that forum. You can go to the Introduction to Microsoldering Facebook group, fantastic group. You could even go over to Pay Lewis at the Rossman Repair Forum. He's got an iPhone section now, so you can go over there as well. I don't believe all that Lewis speaks. Yes, that is true. All right. Public education, while flawed, is still good, and Lewis doesn't believe in it. Yes, exactly. Lewis has a very narrow worldview from his own experience of a very thin slice of what the public education experience is. Now that we have the map of the genome, is anyone excited about the mapping of proteins and epigenetics? What do you think about that?
Yes.
No, it's so boring. Boo! No.
That's what it's all about,
We just
guys.
want to talk about Trump. No. So what's the future of genetics?
The future of genetics. Oh, it's just going so fast. It's just amazing. But I think The big thing right now is personalized medicine, what they call precision medicine is actually the newer term for it, which means that basically in the future you're going to get your whole genome sequenced. They're going to have that on file for you, and whenever anything happens, you know, if they want to see which drug to prescribe or whatever, they look at your genome first, and they're going to decide, because you have these variants, this is the best thing for you, and it'll be so much better than the current way that medicine works, which is just sort of guess the most common thing, let's try that.
Right.
And then that doesn't work for you, so we'll try the next most common thing that works for people. So it's going to be a lot more
will that happen
precise.
In our lifetime?
Absolutely, yes.
Absolutely, yes.
Absolutely, yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So what would be like the most...
Unless I die tomorrow.
Unless you die tomorrow, right. So when I ultimately get breast cancer in 10 years,
Yep.
will I be able to go and get my genome sequenced and for them to say, you're estrogen receptor negative and blah, 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 or what?
Good question. So what they will do is they will sequence the genome of the cancer, not of you, right?
All right.
So the cancers are mutants. They have typically accumulated several mutations. So it'll be a little bit different from your sort of base genome. And they go in there and they figure out what has specifically gone wrong in those particular cancer cells, and then they can go in and treat that specifically based on what that.
How much does it cost to sequence an entire human genome?
An entire human genome is under $1,000 these days. I don't know exactly what it is.
Do I have the right, let's say I pay out of pocket for that, do I have the ability even now to say, hey, 23andMe, give me my entire genome sequence, here's $1,000?
I don't know if 23andMe can do that. Can they?
I don't think so.
I think
they're
they
still
can.
doing a bunch of like
I don't think
arrays.
they can. But
if they could, like.
Yeah, I mean.
My last
problem
conversation
is,
with those guys. Did you remember my friend Sarah?
I know you had a friend who's in that.
Yeah. Well, Sarah is now the VP laboratory science at Ancestry.com. Yeah, so, but I remember talking with her from and this other friend Jill that was the CMO at 23andMe about this issue of whether or not just the consumer has the I don't know if the right or if it is humane or makes sense to really divulge all that we could. What do you think about that?
I think most people don't know what to do with it.
Right.
That's the problem. I mean, it's a huge, vast amount of data, and most of us, and all of us scientists don't even know what it all means either.
Right.
So what the problem that I see right now is 23andMe was overstepping for a while there, and they've been kind of reined back because they were trying to tell people that they knew stuff about them based on their genome, which wasn't backed up well with science. So it was things that were suggestive and maybe shown in one or two studies, but not really replicated well. And so these things were not, really solid. And that's the problem. Is we still don't know enough about our own genomes in order for that information to be as useful.
Right.
So
like
right
the
now,
lay people want it to be black and white.
Yeah,
Am I going to get this disease or not?
And it's not like that at all. In fact, probably 50% of any trait is environmental.
Yeah.
So there's no way that you can do that, and that's one of the big problems, I think. And I think, but if you're talking about something like you were saying before about getting breast cancer, right? That's something we know a lot about.
Yep.
And they can go in and sequence that cancer and look for specific things that we know what they do. And so there's a case where that could be really useful. But just going in blindly and looking at your whole genome and being like, yeah, I know what the rest of your life is going to be like now, it's science fiction.
What about the likelihood of going and doing the genome editing and taking out malaria and shit like that.
Isn't that cool?
Is that gonna happen? What does it take? Tell us this. Can you like kind of educate us? Yeah, like that stuff. Tell us about CRISPR.
CRISPR is super cool.
Mark, have you ever heard of CRISPR?
Where do you go?
Mark, you got to show up for genetics class, like right now. Blow off whatever you're doing. This is important shit.
Place.
Hmm?
The salad place, CRISPR's?
Yeah, kind of. Do they serve a couple of mutations up with your croutons?
Mutated salad?
Yeah. Have you ever heard of this stuff, CRISPR?
It vaguely sounds like I.
Might have scrolled through it on Reddit one time.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. All right. So what is it?
It is a genome editing technology which allows you to go in and remove something from a genome. It's really cool. And it's like a very precise way to like take out a piece of sequence that you don't want in there for some reason and replace it with something if you want to replace it. And it's very precise. It doesn't work 100% of the time, so it's still, you know, in development for like human use or whatever, but it's really phenomenal because it's really advancing things really quickly. What would take forever, or you know, a really long time in terms of cloning stuff and trying to make knockouts. Did you ever used to do that when you were?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. It's a pain in the ass, right?
Yes, it is.
And from what I hear, I've never done it myself, but from what I hear, this is so much easier and faster.
Mm-hmm.
And so it really allows you to do a lot more research happens more quickly, and then in the future it'll be used on actual people, I think.
Sounds awesome. All right, let's see what kind of.
Actually, they've done a couple.
Done a couple on.
There was one, wasn't there? Shoot, I feel like there was somebody who was cured of sickle cell or something. Did you hear about that?
No, I don't hear about anything.
Yeah.
I hear about a lot of iPhone stuff.
Yeah.
Like a lot.
Yeah.
But but not so much on really
I think they
anything
went
but like
into-
the
yeah.
loudest science article.
I think they went into her bone marrow and fixed her beta globin gene so that she wouldn't have sickle cell anymore. Sickle cell disease.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's pretty cool. That makes sense. All right. Let's see what is going on here. iPad Rehab do a lot of these personally tailored medications rely on things like CRISPR. What's to prevent insurance from getting your genome?
Okay, so good question, because there is a law called GINA, which stands for the Genetic Information Non-Something Act.
Okay.
Non-Discrimination Act.
Yep.
And that's a law that says that insurance companies are not allowed to discriminate against you on the basis of anything genetic that they might find out about you. But that's only health insurance, and they can still discriminate against you for life insurance. And it also says that employers can't discriminate against you and whatever. The problem is that nobody really trusts that these things, even though it's a law, doesn't mean it's really going to be enforced, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I think that there is a certain amount of risk there
Yeah.
still. Yeah.
Yeah. All the stuff you just kind of have to. There's just too many unknowns. It's kind of like, we'll have to just wait and see. It's been boosted by his uneducated rhetoric, and it emboldens people. I'm guessing you're talking about Lewis, but I don't know. 23andMe is heavily discounted because they use your genetic information for things like ancestry genealogy research, and also they will no doubt sell off you genetic information for profit down the line. What makes you say that?
I don't think they're discounted at all.
I don't think so either.
Or do you mean discounted for the price of it?
I think
Oh,
he
is that what he
probably
meant?
means discredited, but I don't.
I thought he meant discredited,
I would
but,
think so too.
but looking at it, maybe they mean discounted because they can sell
It's
you.
heavily discounted because they use, maybe.
I don't know. So like it's
Yes.
cheaper to go through them than to go through like
Right.
a
One of
a
the
clinical
things,
lab.
one of the things that I liked about 23andMe in terms of their general spirit and philosophy, I don't know if we ever talked about this or not.
I think
Maybe
we
we
did
did.
a little bit when you first came back.
Right, was this idea of, in my experience, the the struggle to maintain privacy was so important, and there were so many rules and so many hoops to jump through, and so much loss of valuable data at the like being beholden to privacy more important than anything, that it was disgusting. And I can remember in particular that you'd have to go through all this training, all this HIPAA stuff, all of this informed consent stuff, all of this, IRB stuff.
Oh yeah.
And it would take years of your life, to even say, hey, I want to pursue this idea. It was, start with the first year of trying to get approval for all of the privacy shit. And then you would get to something like this, where let's say that in this freezer over there is 100,000 DNA samples from people that each one of them, their family and the guy who's this is whose DNA it is, were told, hey, do you want to be in a study about, X, Y, Z? And he said, absolutely, because I'm dying of this disease, and anything that you can do to find out, to help this prevent it from happening to somebody else, I am all for that. You can absolutely take my DNA, and I definitely want to sign up for that. Here's my informed consent. That now, also related to that disease, I want to investigate a different gene, so I'd like to use those samples. Whoa. That guy didn't consent to your study, and the original consent was not broad enough, so the court says we have to throw that man's DNA away, even though he's long dead, even though his attitude was clearly thumbs up, even though his family would be okay. Or you have to hire somebody and try to get the family, whatever. It was just a big nightmare. What I liked about 23andMe is that they said, hey, why don't we just kind of have everybody that opts in for just, hey, send us a DNA sample, that we can email them and say, hey, you guys, somebody had this cool idea online about, like, maybe there's, let's investigate this whole asparagus pea thing. Like, let's actually do that, because all we have to do is press a few buttons asking you to fill out a survey. After you eat asparagus, does your pea smell like asparagus? Yes or no? Yes and no. And then we're just going to run a quick study to see whether or not there's an association. And it was all this sort of like hands up, opt-in, easy, social media based informed consent, which I thought was great. And it could be risky, and you could have holes in that, but who cares? I think most people are genetically curious. And okay with that stuff. Right.
Yeah, and I think, privacy has changed. People's expectations of privacy have changed a lot.
Paul Daniels says, Chris Long, I often think it was a mistake to let everyone on the internet. I liked it better when it was just nerds and geeks, though it was bad enough even back then. All the flame wars, etc. All right. It's like Facebook and social media. If you don't pay the full price, then you and your data become their product to compensate in cost. I have no idea whether or not that is true or not. However, if you wanted to say, hey, Jessa, we'll sequence your DNA for free, we'll give you the results, and then we're going to take your DNA genome and we're going to compile it into a list called everybody's genomes that said yes to this, and that's going to be a database that we're going to then use for potential for-profit studies. Do you want to do that? I would say yes. What would you say?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, of course. Yes. What's the downside? There's no downside. This. It's about being genetically curious. If anyone wants to sequence my genome, have at it. Do I expect any kind of compensation? Fuck no. This is that's to me, that's like, rolling some dice in a tray and being like, these are my dice roll. You have to pay me if you want to see if I got a 6 or not. Fuck you. I didn't get a 6. That'll be $1. No, man. It's a dice roll. It's just, what are you afraid of? What are you afraid of? I get it's legitimate if you said, I wouldn't want to be a part of a study where I'm going to sequence Dina's genome and I'm going to keep it in a folder called Dina's Genome with all of the mutations that I know are associated with disease, marked and circled in red on the front page, and I'm just gonna leave it laying around, where it's her name linked to negative information about her genome, and I'm going to kind of, keep it in my desk like that. That's generally not how these things work. That doesn't really do anybody any good. Things are generally very sharky about separating in order to do science.
Yeah.
Information
It
from
has to be.
from identifying shit.
But I mean, if you really wanted to go and find out who somebody was,
If it's free, you're the product. Who cares?
I don't care.
Who cares?
But, I mean, that's
Why do
why
you-
like people
why do
like
you
George
care about
Church,
this?
right?
Like what?
George Church.
Nope.
So he's a famous geneticist from Harvard, MIT, Broad Institute sort of guy, and he started. You should Google him.
Let's Google him.
Let's
George
Google
Church sounds great.
So
Let's Google George
he
Church.
sequenced his own genome and made it public. He wanted to
Nice.
start.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna totally do that. How can we do that? I want to make a public genome.
There he is. There's George.
Yeah. All right. Let's
You can
take
find
everybody
out
over here.
anything you want to know about him.
Great. Yes. Let's let's have a contest. Let's see what you guys can do to come up with the most damning thing about George Church. Yeah, that's a great. I love that idea. All right, George Church, professor at Harvard and MIT. Wait, why does he have to have two jobs? Bunch of
He's just that
papers,
good.
blardy blar. Where's his thing about?
Yeah, so you see where it says interpret the world's only open access personal precision medicine data set.
Yeah, interpret the world's only open access personal precision medicine data sets. Yeah, I'll throw my
So
data set in there. It sounds awesome.
So he was, he was proposing that this stuff should just be open because pretty much if you could, once you sequence somebody's genome, you can figure out who they are, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's really easy.
Right.
And so he said this just should all be open, and he's like, who cares?
Yeah,
So-
absolutely.
So his IRB, I think, actually said to him, well, if you feel that way, do your own and put it out there. And he
Yes.
said, okay, fine.
Yes! Love this guy! I love you, George Church. You rock! Yeah. Yeah, I love
Yeah,
that.
so he made himself patient subject number one.
I will be subject number 2.
Well, he's got
I
a
will,
lot of people.
Yeah,
in there
I
now.
bet. Smart
So-
thinking people that realize where
Yeah,
there's
so
risk
he
and
got,
where there's
like,
not
10
risk.
I think the first 10 or 20 people in his data set were all genetics faculty who
Yeah.
were willing to do it. 'Cause
Yeah.
they were like, who cares?
Yeah, exactly. Who cares? Exactly. All right, let's see.
I mean, James Watson's genome's out there, right? You got
Let's see. iPad Rehab. What do you guys think about mobile elements of the genome, like transposable elements?
They're
Do you
super
think
cool.
they are viruses that we have integrated into our genome over time? Yes, I do.
Yes, they are.
Yes, I do.
That's what they are.
Yes, and what was your first ever undergraduate research project?
Undergraduate.
Yeah.
I did a developmental biology project working with frog eggs,
Mm-hmm.
and I was trying to see if some sort of if salt could preserve them so that so the problem is when you do artificial fertilization of frog eggs, so you get the eggs out of the female, which
Yep.
is actually pretty easy. You inject her with hormone, and a few days later you squeeze her and they come out, right?
You squeeze a frog,
You squeeze the frog and,
and
the
you
eggs
get
come out.
this
This big pile,
period comes out
this
of
big
white goo.
pile of black.
Black. Ooh,
It's like black and white eggs. They're half black and half white.
Okay.
They're really cool. And in this nasty jelly.
Mm-hmm.
And
Now, how do you get the frog sperm?
yeah, that's the fun
Yes. Do you have to jerk them off?
part. Unfortunately, it's
Wait.
not as easy to get sperm from a frog as it is from a mammal.
Okay. So how do you do it?
You cut off their head and chop them open and pull out the testes, which are inside.
Wow, I wasn't
you
gonna. That's not what I was guessing.
Yeah.
It's not how you get it out of mammals?
No. Believe it or not, it's easier in mammals. Yeah. So
Yes.
so you have to cut them open.
Yep.
You dissect out the testes, and then you put them in a dish of saline, and you chop them up chop up the testes.
The testes.
The testes, yeah.
Okay.
And all the sperm swim out.
Oh wow.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
And then you take a drop of that and you drop it onto the eggs and it fertilizes them.
Magic. Very cool.
It's
So
really
that's
cool.
what.
It's
yeah,
fun to
so
watch.
So that's what you did. Now, did you have pangs of guilt over the poor frogs?
Well, I didn't have to kill them. My advisor did. I was just an undergrad, so I wasn't sort of allowed
of that.
to kill them. But I got to watch.
Mhm.
I got to dissect out the testes. I just didn't get to chop off their heads.
Mm.
So,
Well, we had to do, in my undergraduate research, we had to do also dissection, but it was fruit flies, so it seemed a little bit more like, you know, we had to do we had to get the imaginal discs out of the larvae,
oh, cool.
you know, which was really a challenge, and
Yeah.
but that's what we had to do. But my
so that's
project,
where you started with the micro dissection and stuff.
yes, apparently, yeah, way back in the day. But we had. My first project was a p-element transposon project. Super fun. This idea of using, you know, these sort of jumping genes that you can make excise and move to other places, and just kind of sequencing a big piece of DNA and seeing these repeats that are stuck in there from ancient old viruses that we've been copying and carrying around forever. It is pretty cool.
So my graduate work, my dissertation work, was actually using something like a prokaryotic transposon to place a reporter gene at random spots in a bacterial genome and see what it did.
Mm-hmm. To
And
just sort of
then-
see
So
where things were expressed.
So I had this one this one strain of bacteria that had an insertion of this reporter gene that made when you grew them on xgal, it made it blue, right? Beta-galactosidase gene. And so my bacteria made these colonies with concentric rings of blue, so blue, white, blue, white, blue, white. And then I was sort of going in and trying to figure out what the gene was and how it worked, that it made that pretty pattern.
Yeah, that is cool.
So that's a way that we used a transposable element to do that.
Yeah, I did something similar to try to do my transposable element stuff back in the day. Ribs and sausage. What questions on the scope? What are you guys talking about? Are people afraid of other people knowing their results details, or are they afraid of missing out of some mythical payout for their suffering and loss of privacy? I don't know. Paul Daniels is a pretty smart guy. He's from somewhere in Australia. Let's see. Having people pay for what's in my genes. Wouldn't that make me a prostitute? I like it. Mark is in the house. Do not blame leaving Florida. I have house in Key Largo. Hate the place. Whoa, jeez. Let's see. All right, so we're getting ready to. Huh?
I don't think they're all that interested in the genetics talk.
Well, yeah, that's okay.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Now this porn talk turning me off. All right, we're gonna see what Dina's what are they called? Interactive
Video vignettes
are gonna do for Mark. We're gonna try to teach Mark about Marfan syndrome, which is a pretty cool one. All right, so let's kind of. What percentage of genetic scientists are religious? My guess would be very small. I don't know the answer to that. Are you religious?
I do.
I am not religious, but there are a lot of religious scientists. Francis Collins is very religious.
Yeah, there's a
He's the head
few.
of the NIH.
Yeah.
And he talks a lot about his faith. and how important that is to him.
I'm not sure it's as much scientists about just sort of like analytical thinkers. Like if I think about like people that work here, you know, tend to be good at analytical thinking.
Yeah.
Is anyone on Team iPad Rehab religious at all?
Depends on how you define it.
No, definitely not. No, come on. How about you, Mark?
I've dabbled.
Oh yes, we've talked about that on my drunk stream about Mark used to go to church to pick up chicks.
Ah, okay.
And it didn't
Did
work.
it work?
All right, get over here, Mark.
Yeah,
We gotta finish this up, and you gotta do this. Are you ready?
No, we gotta get back to
All right.
we gotta get out of here.
You need to do that.
No.
You know what I'm doing.
Turn off that station because this is getting too long without like waiting for you.
Well,
This is way too long.
maybe we should
I've
do-
just been waiting for you.
No, well, I'm waiting for you. All right, let's see. How often are C. elegans worms used today in regards to genome sequencing? Genome sequencing.
well, their genome has been sequenced for a while, so it's. I don't think
they're
used
not.
for
They're
that.
not really used for genome sequencing.
They're used a lot in research, though. There's
Right.
a lot of people who work with C. elegans.
All right, let's see. Okay, so let's take Mark over here to Dina's thing here. Let me find it again. All right, I closed all that. So what do I? Let's see if I can find this way back
/cost/interactive.
Interactive. Okay, so we're gonna find one. We'll take
You
one.
don't want to do Marfan one?
I don't know. I want to do a fun one. Which one was the challenge for Mark?
Well, that one's challenge.
This one?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it.
Okay.
Okay. All right, here we go. All right, Mark.
You ready?
Are you ready?
What?
Okay, get over
You
here.
gotta pay attention.
You gotta
You won't do
pay
it.
attention. You
Okay.
gotta
You gotta pay
interact. You're going to school now. We're taking you to Modern College. Dun, 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 dun. Welcome to
Agree,
college.
continue. Got
Look
that
at
one
that.
right.
Wow. Look at you. You're on a roll. All right, here we go. Any second now, this is going to load, and you're getting ready to educate.
Okay. You-
All right.
Mark Schaefer. Bam. That's 2.
All right. Is this something that should
You just have to put
be-
something in. It doesn't matter.
I can put anything? All right. First name is going to be Mark, and the last name will be Schaefer.
It's not actually storing this because
Okay, that's
it's
fine. Click next page at the bottom right corner of this window. Okay, next page. All right, let's see. All right. Well, that guy definitely has Marfan syndrome because he's a basketball.
Hi, Chris. How are you? How are your classes going?
Do you know Carol?
Sorry.
Oh yeah, Carol! Oh my God!
You remember my cousin Pete?
Yeah, he's the one who lives in Seattle, right?
Yeah, that's him. Sad news. Passed away on Tuesday.
Oh, you're
Oh,
kidding.
That's too bad.
Yes.
Didn't he have little kids too?
Yes.
Not so little, actually. Ryan is 12, Jaden
And
is
really
10,
tall.
and my Aunt Mary says both of them are taller than her already.
So what happened? Pete wasn't that old.
I love the basketball.
He was only 44, younger than me. Aunt Mary said he seemed perfectly healthy. She saw him just a few days before it happened. He was playing hoops with some friends
Oh.
when all of a sudden he dropped dead. She
Basketball's
said
so
his aorta
dangerous.
burst.
Whoa, are you sure? I don't think your aorta can just burst for no reason.
Well, according to Aunt Mary, there was a reason. Apparently, he had this genetic disease called Marfan syndrome that no one knew about. I just can't believe it.
Hang on, I'm looking that up. Marfan?
Yes,
Minimize
that's
his
right.
4chan now. Did it pause?
Oh, you gotta go to the next page.
Oh, okay. I gotta go to. Well, let's. All right. So, Mark, before we go to the next page, do you have any pre-existing knowledge about Marfan syndrome?
Never heard.
Okay. Do you think that you might have Marfan syndrome just because you've now heard a little blurb about it?
Well, now that I know that it exists,
Yes.
obviously
And then
there's a chance I
It can
have.
cause you to drop dead all of a sudden
Yes,
of a
your
bursting
aorta can just blow up. All right. How concerned on a scale of 1 to 10 are you that you might have Marfan syndrome?
Definitely. They
I'm gonna
don't
give
try to
that-
tell you.
I'm gonna give that a 3.
A 3. On a scale of 100, you have a 3%, or a scale of 10?
Yeah, 10.
Oh, okay, so you're 30% concerned
Okay.
about. Okay, so all right, let's go back. All right, let's see what you can learn here about this super important stuff. All right, next page. All right. Okay,
What
question.
does it mean when we say someone has a genetic disease? Choose the best answer. They have a condition caused by the genes of bacteria or viruses. They have a condition that isn't caused by germs. They have a condition caused by a problem with their own DNA. They have a condition caused by a single mutation in a gene.
Okay, what do you think it means?
What does it mean when we
All right, Mark, this is
either
tough.
C or D.
Well, there is no C or D.
Well,
Fail. F
you know what I
minus.
mean.
All right, so what does it mean when we say someone has a genetic disease? What are you eliminating here?
I would say the last one. The
It's either
condition-
this one or that one.
Yeah, it's one of those. I'm gonna go with the last one.
They have a condition caused by a single mutation in a gene. They have a condition caused by a problem with their own DNA. They have a condition that isn't caused by germs.
Well, I mean, I think that fits too.
They have a
What do you think is
condition
the best answer?
caused by the genes of the bacteria or viruses.
I'm gonna go with the last one.
This one?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. You know what word jumps out at me for that one? The word single. But what do I know?
Yeah, what do you know?
All right. All right. We're gonna pick that one. But at that, the word single mutation, that kind
Oh,
of
yeah, I guess
that
that
weirds
that-
me out.
Alright, well let's see.
Do you want to? You gonna stick with that?
No, I'll change it to the third one.
See?
Okay.
Cause I get the last one is just a narrowing of the third one, right?
Yeah. So
Okay,
is that
so,
a correct
yeah.
narrowing or is it an incorrect narrowing? That's your question.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with 3.
Okay. All right. Next page. Let's see. You idiot! Please tell me the guy screams, "You idiot!"
Yes, that's right.
Yes!
The fundamental
Yes!
problem with
Mark
genetic
wins!
disease is in the person's own DNA. The problem can be as simple
Good job not being a retard that picked single mutation.
as a single base change that produces a single misfolded protein. But it can also be more complicated,
Yes.
such as carrying an extra chromosome,
Yeah.
or having a large deletion that knocks out many genes.
Yes. Love the basketball. All right, great. All right, let's move on. Okay. Ooh, another question.
Chris keeps using the word gene, but I'm not quite sure what that really means. Can you help me?
Yes, it's what we call Miss Campany when we need to just say her name real quick.
It's the first one.
All right, Jean is, well, let's listen to
Which of
her.
the following is the best definition of the term gene? A gene is a section of DNA that contains information.
That one.
Okay, fine, fair enough. We'll like to go fast.
Okay,
Let's
good.
see. Let's see. No need to dawdle and make shit take a long time.
That's right. A gene
Yes!
is a section of DNA that contains information. Most of the time, the information tells how, when, and where to make a particular protein. Usually the protein is what actually carries out a biological function, and then results in a trait that you might observe. For example, you have a gene that encodes a protein called lactase. If you express that gene in your intestinal cells, you make the lactase protein, and this allows you to digest the lactose found in milk you consume. People who cannot make lactase are said to have the trait lactose intolerance.
Great. All right, next. What do you think the term dominant means in genetics?
Wait, did he finish? No, he didn't finish. Go back.
Okay, Mom.
He didn't?
No.
Yeah, he did.
Are you sure?
That's right.
Well,
a gene
pause.
is a section of DNA that
All right, let's
Wait.
go around here.
intolerance.
Really? I think they screwed up my video. Again.
Uh-oh.
Oh.
This guy's getting
Alright.
his
Okay,
ass
Mom.
kicked.
I found a good website.
Oh, no, here it is. Okay,
It
he's
says
gonna read
that
it here.
Marfan syndrome is an autosomal dominant disorder.
What does that mean?
What do you think the term dominant means in genetics?
I don't know. What does Wikipedia tell
Stronger,
me?
more common, better, or none of the above?
Okay, Mark.
All right, Mark. Now this is, so is this a pre-quiz? Like, what's our pre-existing knowledge? Nothing?
Yeah, what should I know coming into this?
Yeah, what are you supposed to know? What's the prereqs here?
Yeah, this stuff is supposed to be for like an intro bio class.
Should I have
So
taken
most-
Have you
biology
already
in high
heard
school?
about... Wait, what?
Should I have taken biology
Yes,
in
you
high
should have
school?
taken biology in high school.
That's probably a good idea. I probably should have done that.
What about, have you done like Punnett squares and heard the word dominant recessive or no?
Probably, yeah.
Probably. Okay.
But it may have been a while.
It may have been a while. Okay, that's fine. All right, so Mark, you're on your own then, man. You got to just figure this out using your basic smarts. What does the term dominant mean in genetics? That's going to be tough.
Yeah, it's one of the first two, I think, unless the none of the above is like the trap, because I'm not sure.
Reason it out. Let's hear your logic here.
Well, okay, so I know like brown eyes are a dominant gene,
Okay.
and I guess they are more common, but that is because they're stronger and
I'll give you a
more
piece of
likely to-
outside information.
okay.
Huntington's disease is a dominant disorder.
He just said that Marfan syndrome was a dominant.
Yeah, Marfan syndrome, but we don't really know what Marfan, maybe everybody's got Marfan syndrome. Huntington's disease is a disease
Do
where,
you know what Huntington's is?
Yes.
yeah, so Huntington's disease is caused by a dominant mutation.
I guess I'll go with stronger. That was kind of where I was going with that anyways, is I think more common is correct for a lot of it, but that's because stronger is actually the correct answer.
Let's see. Stronger. All right, let's see.
I think this is
Okay, how can I explain this?
That means
that
means
wrong.
you're
means
wrong.
no.
That means no. Okay. How can I
Okay,
explain?
how can I
Okay,
explain
Rush.
this?
How can I explain this to you?
So the
Okay.
answer was none of the above.
Yeah.
That
Why do you do that? That's the question why. Like, why do
I
you
knew
do
that was a
I don't
trap.
understand.
I
It's
knew
not
it.
because this is something that students get wrong all the time.
So why trick them?
It's not a trick.
It's not a trick.
It's not a trick. It's
Okay,
a
wait.
way of
All right,
teaching
why is it not
I
a trick?
find none of the above to be just
All right, so
not.
But what would happen if you picked, let's say you picked whatever you could have put instead of none of the above, and then he would have been like, that's right! And then you would have hit next page, and you would have moved on. Without really understanding why common is wrong. Because you just kind of picked one that seemed like it was the obvious thing.
Because the only other way to phrase the thing that would be correct would be that when the two alleles are together in the same person, the dominant one is
masks
the
the
one
other, or
that
whatever.
is
Right.
that is observed, and that's way too long,
Right.
and it's completely obvious that that's the right answer just because it's so long.
Right.
So the only way to phrase this question was to make it 3 wrong answers that are very, very common answers by students, and then make the other one none of the above. That
And
was
the only way
to
that
make
you'll
this
get it
question.
right is if you have pre-existing understanding of what it is.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
So-
you're here to learn it, right?
Yeah, this is
So-
a teaching tool.
Right.
This is not,
The-
you're not getting graded on this. This is just teaching.
the reason why
let's see.
stronger is the wrong answer is because that's not specific enough to.
Yeah.
Okay, I get that.
Let's see what this guy. Let's see how this guy can explain it to Mark. Oh, let's see. How can I put
I'm
this?
sharing my screen with you. This is a picture from my genetics.
Yeah, I see it.
Everyone gets a copy of every gene from each parent. As it shows here, the 2 copies can be the same exact DNA sequence, or they can be a little different. The different versions of the same gene are called alleles. When we say that one allele is dominant to another, it means that when those 2 alleles are together in the same individual, the trait associated with the dominant allele is what you see.
So the dominant allele is stronger?
No, not really. Think of it this way.
See?
Remember that genes code for proteins. If you have 2 different alleles, you could make 2 different versions of the protein. Imagine that one of the alleles is a mutant that doesn't make the protein at all. Since you still had one good copy, you would still be able to make the protein and function normally. So we would say that the normal allele is dominant to the mutant one. On the other hand, if you had 2 copies of the mutant allele, you would never be able to make the protein, and that's when you'd have a problem. you would say that the mutant allele is recessive to the normal one because we only see the problem when both copies are mutant.
Oh, so dominant means it works better.
No, that's not it either. Sometimes the dominant allele is the bad one. Remember I just said that Marfan is dominant? In other words, you can get Marfan syndrome, which is clearly not a good thing, from just one mutant allele.
Is this a common thing?
According to the website, about 1 in 5,000 people have Marfan syndrome. So clearly the normal recessive allele is more common. Huh, this is interesting. It says that nearly half the people who have Marfan don't know it.
Like you.
Okay, so let's see if I've got this. You're saying there's a gene with a certain allele that makes a messed up protein, and that you only need one of those bad alleles to get Marfan syndrome?
Right. The gene involved in Marfan syndrome codes for a protein called fibrillin, which is a component of elastic fibers in connective tissue. So everyone has the gene that codes for fibrillin, but people with Marfan syndrome make a dysfunctional version of fibrillin, which weakens the connective tissue and makes it more stretchy than normal.
Okay, but what does that have to do with how Cousin Pete died?
It says here that the problem in the connective tissue sometimes causes the aorta to become enlarged, and when under stress, such as when playing a sport, the aorta can actually split open and cause sudden death. Apparently a couple of well-known athletes have died this way, including
Abraham
a woman
Lincoln
who
was
was
really
on the
good at
U.S.
basketball.
Olympic volleyball team.
So it doesn't just affect men then?
No, that's the autosomal part of autosomal dominant. It means that both men and women are equally likely to inherit it, and they can get it from either parent.
Are there any other symptoms?
The website says that people with Marfan syndrome are very tall, thin, and long-limbed.
And like
That
basketball.
describes Cousin Pete all right, as well as most of the rest of our family. It also says that they're likely to have very flexible joints, crowded teeth, and sometimes problems with their vision too.
Oh my gosh, you are so tall. You had braces when you were in middle school, and you wear glasses. What if you have this too?
Well, I could
Then
lose
I
my
guess it would be
basketball
awesome at
scholarship,
basketball.
for one
See?
thing. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Are we sure it's even from your side of the family?
It must be. Uncle Jack was well over 6 feet tall, but Aunt Mary is short, and so is her whole family. Uncle Jack was my mother's brother. You probably don't remember him. He died about 15 years ago. We all thought it was just a heart attack, but maybe it was this Marfan thing.
Dun, dun, dun,
Dun,
dun.
dun, dun.
Oh, not looking good for him.
Uh-oh. Watch out, dude. Alright.
Wow, this is kind of scary.
Yeah.
Based on
Chris.
the information you have so far, do you think I could have Marfan syndrome? Yes, it is possible. Or no, it is not possible.
Let's find out. Marfan syndrome is an autosomal dominant disorder. Mark, what does autosomal mean?
It can affect men and women.
Yeah,
Yes.
good job.
Smart. Did you know what autosomal was this morning when you woke up?
No.
Yay.
Nice. All right. Chris's mother's first cousin, male, had Marfan syndrome. So his mom's, his mother's son,
Mother's brother's son.
mother's
mother's
brother's
brother's
son.
Yeah.
All right. Symptoms of Marfan include very tall, thin, long limbs, hyperflexible joints, enlarged aorta, basketball memorabilia everywhere, crowded teeth, and poor vision.
Oh,
Chris
yeah.
is tall and
Yeah,
thin,
this dude's got it
had
for
braces
sure.
to correct teeth, and wears contacts to correct vision.
Well, then
And
why
on
is-
top of that, he also has to wear glasses.
Yeah, why does it say
So his eyes
contacts?
are super fucked up, which
Oh my
means he
goodness.
definitely has Marfan syndrome.
Why does it say
Yeah.
contacts? Oh, thank you for.
And
can
so,
fix
do you
that.
think it's possible for
Yes.
Chris to have Marfan syndrome? Yes. In fact, definite. Just because.
I don't think it's possible for him to not have it.
Okay, now you're gonna learn something more.
You know what we should do? We should build a family tree and
Yeah.
figure out who else in the family is likely to be affected.
Yeah.
The website says that there's a genetic test for Marfan syndrome, so if it looks like you or I might be affected, we can get tested to find out for sure.
That we're going to die.
Okay, that makes sense.
I learned how to make a pedigree in genetics. A pedigree is basically a genetic geneticist version of a family tree. See, so here I drew Pete and his parents. You use squares to represent males and circles to represent females. A horizontal line between symbols represents a relationship, like a marriage, and a vertical line goes between generations. I'm using an arrow to indicate Pete. He's what we call the proband because he's the first case identified in the family. Did he have any brothers or sisters? Their sisters? Their sisters? Okay, I found a pedigree drawing program online.
Oh, damn.
Here, look. This is you and your brother. I put a slash through the line between Uncle Joe and Aunt Jessica to show that they're divorced. And the fork symbol here indicates that their kids are twins. Here are your parents and grandparents. The people on this line are your aunts and uncles, and the people on this line are your first cousins. A slash through a symbol means the person is dead. This dotted line and bracket shows that June is adopted.
Don't forget to add yourself. Our family is non-traditional, so I'm curious to see how you draw it.
Non-traditional.
I was just wondering what the symbol is for booty call.
Booty call.
Well,
Right.
a line
Yeah,
represents a
next page.
marriage. A line with a slash is a divorce.
Oh,
Yes.
line
Oh, an unmarried.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
My mom, Carrie, is
Booty
married to
call.
my mom, Rebecca, who is not a blood relation of mine. My biological mother was artificially inseminated to have me, and they both raised me. How should I represent our relationship?
What do you think?
What do you think? Both his moms. Show the two women linked with a horizontal line and a vertical line linking them both to Chris, since he considers them both his parents. Show a vertical line. Who identifies as his mom? Show a vertical line coming from Chris's biological mother only, since Rebecca is not his genetic mother. Show a male symbol linked to Chris's biological mother, with a vertical line linking them to Chris to indicate the sperm donor father. What do you want to do there, Mark?
Yeah, the third one. Sure.
Did you really pay attention?
Yeah.
All right, we'll see.
I don't know.
Aorta rips right in half on the spot.
You're giving yourself a father?
Yeah, even though we don't know who my biological father is, he's still made a genetic contribution, so I have to put him in.
You have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
it
he was
looks
an
like you're
asshole.
closer to some guy you never met than to the woman who raised you.
No, I love her, and I don't even know him. But remember, Mom, this is all about genetic relationships. How we feel about each other has nothing to do with the pedigree. It's just a tool to think
So
about
how does
genetic
this work?
inheritance.
You can't put a square peg in a
I
round
guess
hole.
that makes
Everyone knows
sense.
that.
Well, I think you have the whole family
Put a
tree
round
now.
peg in a square
It's fun to
hole,
see it all laid out like that.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. Okay, now we're going to add the Marfan syndrome information.
Okay.
First, I'll fill in Pete's symbol because we know he had it.
And I think you can
Because
fill in
he's
Uncle
dead.
Jack too.
Okay, what about Pete's siblings? Jennifer isn't really tall, is she?
No, she's pretty average looking. On the short side, if anything. Same with Steve. He took after his mom. Short and kind of chubby. Their sister Beth, though, she's a beanpole. She used to play the piano. It helped that she had
With
such
her
long
really long
fingers.
fingers.
She could reach across more than an octave, even as a young girl.
That is amazing.
Okay, I'm putting down Jennifer and Steve as unaffected and Beth as affected.
Affected. All right. So where? Whoa. Madeline, Mallory, Mackenzie, Johnny, Pete. All right. Next page.
Mark is unaffected.
What on earth are you trying to do?
Yeah, Mark's
Okay,
unaffected.
fantastic.
Yeah, he's trying to figure out himself.
Assuming the information we've discussed so far is correct, which of the following is true?
Okay.
All right, now this is gonna be tough. Let's see. Can we embiggen this? All right. So everything is true so far. Which is the following? Marfan syndrome could be sex-linked, meaning
No.
okay, no. One of Uncle Jack's parents probably had Marfan syndrome. I can't see these names. That's too far away. Which one is Jack? Is
The
this
top
Jack?
one, yeah.
Is this Jack?
Yeah,
He's
that's
the one
Jack.
that died.
So
From the
Jack
neck
is Pete.
exploding?
No,
No,
Pete
his
died.
son did, but he was also super tall. So his son Pete is dead. Pete
Okay.
is dead, so
So is Jack.
Jack is also dead, so we can't really ask him. They think he had a heart attack, but he was super tall, and his son died of Marfan syndrome.
Okay.
So one of Uncle Jack's parents probably had Marfan syndrome.
No.
Chris, where is Chris?
Yeah, where the
Chris
hell is
on the left, down.
This is
that
Chris.
one.
This
That's
is Chris.
Yeah, right there. That's Chris.
All right, so this is Chris. So Chris could not have Marfan
Nope.
syndrome. So that's not true. You think he can have Marfan syndrome?
Uh-huh.
One of Uncle Jack's siblings has Marfan syndrome. One of Uncle Jack's siblings has Marfan syndrome, and the other two do not. So,
No, I don't know if I agree with that either.
say your thoughts out loud.
Okay, so I think the idea that it's sex linked is just like that doesn't really seem to make any sense.
Okay.
The idea that Chris, wait, okay, I misread that. Chris could not have it. That's true. He could not have it.
Chris could not have Marfan syndrome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If
okay.
it said Chris definitely doesn't, then I would disagree. But yeah, I think.
Well, okay. So I think what that statement means is that he can't possibly have it.
Oh, okay. Well, then I disagree with that too, because obviously it goes farther up the family tree.
What would it take for Chris to have Marfan syndrome?
One of Uncle Jack's parents to have had it.
Okay, so let's say that one of these guys has it, and
And what?
does that
What else?
person have to have it or no?
Yeah, I guess it's everybody along the way has to have it.
That's right.
All right, so if that person then has to have it, who else would have to have it for Chris to have
Wait,
it?
so one of Uncle Jack's parents probably had it is the correct answer.
All right, well, let's say that's true. So if this is true, this guy has it, in which case, why are all of these, nobody's calling them tall and skinny and Marfan
We haven't
syndrome?
gotten there yet. They're all our question
Yeah,
marks.
we're just
so
Oh, they're
working
question marks.
back
Oh,
from
we haven't gotten there
Oh,
yet.
Okay,
fine.
so I think the second one is the correct answer.
All right, so you're gonna eliminate that. One of the parents probably had it. All right, let's see. Go with that. Is he gonna have his head in his hands?
Yes, that's right.
Yes!
Because Marfan syndrome is an autosomal dominant disorder,
Yes.
we expect it to show up in every generation. In other words, an affected person inherits the mutant allele from an affected parent, and he or she has a 50% chance of passing it on to each of their children. Since it is autosomal as opposed to sex-linked, Pete could have gotten the mutant allele from either his mother or his father. It seems like he got it from his father, Jack. That means Jack also inherited it from one of his parents, my great-grandparents.
Your great-grandparents. All right, good job, Mark.
Yay!
Now, what does this mean? So why are both his moms on there since only
As
one
my
of
mom
them
and I
has a
discussed the
genetic
family,
contributor?
Mark
That's
the
because
individual.
it's a liberal college programming.
Dina, do you have an answer for that?
They don't she doesn't have to be on there, but I think most people prefer to have all their family members shown.
Okay.
It's not really relevant to the analysis, but most
No,
people
it's
prefer
part
to
of the
have all their
subtle
family
program.
members.
Part of the subtle program. What about for environmental things or something like that? Like if you're going to fill this all up with like people that had allergies,
True.
you know,
Yeah,
I
you
think
could
it's
do that.
meaningful information. Which individuals are likely to have Marfan syndrome?
God, you gotta get it.
Arthur, Margaret, Bill, and Joan. All right, so I'm going to have to go up here and point them out because that's going to be way too. All
No,
right.
they're showing the wrong thing
Which
again.
individuals are likely? You got to use your spidey eyes. Holy crap. Yeah.
see that.
All right,
It
you
was-
gonna help us out.
All right.
Which one's Arthur?
I'll tell you.
It's
So
just a line of gray
it
pixels.
looks to me like they've got the wrong image in here again, which I told them about. But okay, so let's see.
Do you ever do a live stream this and I can write asshole like whenever like edit this mofo?
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Okay. So Arthur and Margaret are the group.
These guys? Margaret and this is Arthur.
Yep.
All right. So which is
And Joan and Bill are his grandparents.
Okay, so this is Joan and Bill. Okay, so which individuals are likely to have?
But you have to. I think.
Markings.
Did we play what he
No, we
said?
have to.
Yeah, unless
I
I'm
think you
missing
need to
information
listen.
here.
Yeah. He's gonna talk.
All right, let's listen. Let's let him
listen
talk.
to what he
Go ahead,
says.
Chris.
I think it's gonna
Individuals
do a
that you
blow
think
up
are
too.
likely to have Marfan syndrome. Now, tell me about your other family members. Remember, we're looking for the following characteristics. Tall
Piano,
and thin, disproportionately
basketball,
long arms, legs,
dead.
and toes, sudden heart attack, crowded teeth,
Goes
poor
like this
vision,
and makes everybody go,
hyperflexibility.
ah, stop!
You've seen pictures of my grandparents, Arthur and Margaret.
Remember that one?
There you
used
go.
to
See,
call
we
it
got a
Tubby
blow up
and
now.
Twiggy.
Did you see that?
My grandfather, he looked like a garden gnome, but my grandmother was his total opposite. She towered over him.
Okay, so
I
Margaret.
remember playing dress up with her old clothes when I was a kid. She had a pair of white gloves as long as my legs in those days. And she did always look like she had too many teeth for her mouth.
Okay, and what about your parents?
As you know, my father is 6'2", and he's worn glasses practically his whole life. My mother's on the tall side for a woman, but not super tall. She's 2 inches shorter than me, and I'm 5'9".
Let's think about the other symptoms. She doesn't have particularly long arms or legs.
No, and she actually has pretty stubby fingers and toes. Her vision is really good for her age. She doesn't have crowded teeth,
Margaret,
and she's
no.
not particularly flexible.
And she's never
What about
dropped
Uncle
dead.
Phil and Aunt Caroline? What can you tell me about them?
Oh,
Well,
they're both dead.
they're both tall and skinny. Uncle Phil used to entertain us kids with his contortions. I remember he could pull his thumb all the way down to his wrist.
Mom, there's a picture of someone doing that on the website. That's a sign of Marfan syndrome.
Okay,
Yes.
so-
Remember the hyperflexible joints I mentioned?
Yes.
Wow, I guess he had it too then. Aunt Carolyn looked just like him. She had about the longest arms and legs I've ever seen. I was at her wedding when I was about 11 or 12. I actually remember her mother was so happy that she managed to find a man taller than her. And she died suddenly too. I think it might have been a heart attack.
Okay, so what do you think now?
So do I just have those 4 to pick
I don't know.
from?
See if it scrolls down from the window there.
Oh,
Okay.
jeez.
You got a
Okay.
bunch of
Margaret, Bill, Caroline, and Phil. I can't remember Sven. Who the hell's Sven?
Sven is Caroline's husband.
The,
Okay, yeah,
the tall guy she found on another cover.
Phil, we're good to go.
That's it. Okay.
So tell me why you picked Bill.
Bill,
He
who's Bill?
was super tall.
Oh, you got the
Oh, wait.
Can we go back?
Yeah.
Okay.
Didn't
So you
he say
picked
that?
Bill.
As my mom and I discuss the family, Mark
Alright,
the
let's
tell me
go-
about your
let's get to
lens.
the-
Looked like she had too many teeth for her.
All right.
There you go.
So Bill, how is Bill genetically related to Arthur and Margaret?
Wait, no, I Phil. Go back up.
Well, you picked
Yeah, you
Bill
Go back
and
up. Go
and
back
Phil.
up. Okay, Margaret and Bill. Yeah.
Bill.
Right, yeah, Bill was his dad. Or was it Joan? Was Joan the one that was...
Well, Joan was not particularly tall. No. Bill
Yeah,
was
Bill
tall.
was tall.
Yeah, Bill's tall.
Yeah, okay.
That is weird, though, isn't
That's
it?
why.
That's weird that like this person whose parents had this really rare disease happened to marry a guy who fucking also had the same really rare disease. That is weird.
Oh, right.
Wow.
Yeah,
So
right.
unlucky. So
He's-
unlucky.
yeah,
So
okay.
unlucky.
Yep, I get it. That was good. I wasn't looking at the picture.
No, this is what people do. So this is
Yeah, but that's the thing, because so the fact that he's tall and skinny is like, yeah, so are a lot of
so a
people.
lot of people, right? It doesn't mean they have Marfan.
Right.
Alright, so
of
you want
course.
to delete Bill?
Yeah, Bill's
Fine. Alright, so given that, does
Well, I was also assuming that his parents were related and they just hadn't
I hope
told us
not.
about that yet.
You think
Alright.
it was an inbred family?
Is it-
Okay.
well, I'm from the south. So
Well, you do get a special symbol for that.
Yeah, you do.
it's a lot
actually.
more common down there.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, I filled in the symbols of people in the older generations who seem to have Marfan syndrome. As my mom and I discuss the next generation, select the individuals who are likely to have it.
Okay.
What about your first cousins?
Carolyn's daughters look just like her. Tall and gangly, thick glasses, and funny teeth. At least until they have them fixed.
Okay, Elsa and Ingrid,
Yeah, they're both.
they're getting ready to die.
Caroline was the one that was.
Uncle Phil's kids, though,
Yeah,
they look
Caroline.
nothing
was-
like him.
Okay.
They take after their mother, average height and such.
Last person is Uncle Joe. He's also on the tall side, but not super tall.
Yeah, he's 5'11". I would say his arms, legs, fingers, and toes are proportional to his height.
True, he seems pretty normal overall. I don't think he matches the Marfan profile very well.
All right, so just those two.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Okay.
Okay,
What do you think?
I
No?
filled in the rest of my family history in this pedigree. Earlier, I asked you if it was possible for me to have Marfan syndrome. And now that we have more information, do you still agree with your original answer?
No.
No, you don't. What do you think? No. And by no, I mean now. Dina's getting ready to kick some. She's gonna open up a can when she gets into work.
know.
I'm gonna open up a can of whoop ass. Chris and his mom are at high risk for Marfan syndrome, passed down from Grandpa Bill. So here's Chris. This is his mom. From Grandpa.
Like Grandpa Bill is the guy that we just decided.
Okay, Grandpa Bill. Passed down from Grandpa Bill, who
Okay,
happened
no.
to have the same rare fucking disease. Yeah. Okay. So no. Chris and his mom are at high risk for Marfan syndrome, passed down from Grandma Joan.
No.
Nope, Chris and his mom are high risk for Marfan because it's in the family and genetic traits can skip a generation. What about that?
No.
Nope. Chris and his mom are at very low risk for Marfan syndrome because the trait would not skip a generation.
Yes.
All right, let's see if you're right or if you get the All right, let's see.
Good news, Mom. At first, it seemed pretty likely that you and I could have Marfan syndrome, but
Because
now
of
that I
the
look at it, I can
basketball.
see that the important link is Grandma Joan.
Yes.
Since she doesn't have it, we don't have to worry about ourselves.
Are you sure?
Uncle
Haven't you
Phil's
heard genetic
kids wore a
traits
mean
skipping a
sweater and
generation?
could dance.
Yeah,
square.
but that won't happen with an autosomal dominant trait. Remember, dominant means that if you have one copy of the bad allele, you show the symptoms. Since Grandma doesn't show the symptoms, she can't possibly have a copy of the Marfan allele. And
Meemaw's
what she
fine.
doesn't have, she can't pass down.
That's right.
And if she didn't pass it down to me, I couldn't pass it down to you.
Right. And now that I
That's
think about it, you and I may be tall and lanky, but we're built more like Grandpa Bill than Cousin Pete.
Thank you for doing this. I feel so much better now.
Here, Mom, just go like this.
You might want to call your cousins, though.
Yeah,
I know
you're gonna
I'm
have
not
to
a
tell
genetic
them.
counselor, but
They're gonna
I
die.
think there are an awful lot of people who show signs of Marfan syndrome in the extended family.
Yeah.
Plus others that I can't be sure about.
Well, Chris
mentioned that
could
Pete's
still
kids are
have.
pretty-
So let's answer this. Chris could still have it from the sperm donor.
Okay, what are the chances
What
of that?
are the chances of that? I think those are the good questions to talk about. What is the relative incidence of Marfan syndrome?
I believe you said it was 1 in 5,000.
1 in 5,000. All right, so what is the chance that in your family, which is segregating a really rare autosomal dominant trait, that your mother happens to go down to the sperm clinic and choose the exact vial of sperm from another family who also happens to be segregating the exact same autosomal dominant disorder that somehow wasn't detected in any of the screening. I mean, don't they do shit for
don't know.
sperm like
I don't know if they
pedigree
do.
analysis? I think Marfan syndrome would jump out at you. Maybe.
And that he passed it down. So the
Yes,
chances
exactly.
of this
That
are actually 1 in
times-
10,000
right,
now.
exactly. And that of his 2 copies of that chromosome, he passed on down to you, the bad one. All right.
So chances are 1 in 10,000.
Okay.
So yes, it is possible.
Yes, it is
but
possible.
it is extremely unlikely.
Extremely unlikely, as is having Marfan syndrome to begin with. Right, let's see.
Tall, and if I were Amy, I'd have Ryan and Jaden tested right away.
Would you, or would you?
Just what she needs to hear after losing her husband. Listen, why don't you save this analysis, and then maybe the three of us can have a talk in a couple of weeks, after the funeral.
Okay. In the meantime, you could look up
Why
the names
warn
of
them?
genetic
Let them
counselors in
die.
your area,
Better they drop
so that
off
she can start the
before they
process
pass
for
it
genetic
on.
testing.
That's not really.
That's a good idea.
Wow.
What did he
I'll call you
say?
tomorrow when I have the details on the services. Bye, honey.
Gee, I
Bye,
wonder
Mom.
what you're going to talk about at the funeral. Which of the rest of you fucks are going to die next? List 3
Looking
things you learned
around.
from this activity. Mark was really smart
he was really good
to
at that.
pick up on what autosomal
Yeah.
means all by himself.
Yeah.
Good job, Mark.
Yeah. He got the
Okay. what?
gene question
Yes.
right
Okay.
away.
What else? So Mark, what did you learn from
What did
this?
you learn?
Chris should not reproduce, and it has nothing to do with Marfan syndrome. I think he's in
Chris should not
inferior
reproduce.
because of
This Chris or a different
Yeah,
Chris? This Chris should not reproduce because his vision is not corrected by the combination of
Contacts.
glasses and contacts.
Contracts?
Yes.
I put contracts. Oops. All right, and we need one
We
more
need
thing.
one more. What else did you learn?
What else did you learn? What did you guys learn? Don't worry, I'm not replicating. I learned that Paul Daniels is way more genetically harsh than I thought. With the whole just let them die stuff. All right, so let's just submit. There we go.
All right.
The end! Yay!
So this is like day one in the beginner biology class.
No.
No.
Oops. Where we go?
But this is in.
All right.
So
there we go.
I've used this in my intro bio class, which is a class where students have all had AP biology before.
Mhm.
So they supposedly have had all this stuff about Punnett squares and they should know what
Yeah, they should
autosomal
get all
dominant
of that
means
right
and stuff,
then.
but they don't.
In your professional opinion as educator of many, what is your opinion of our Mark Schaefer's ability to follow along with this vignette?
I think it was
His
it
incoming
was right
knowledge.
on. It was good. Yeah.
His incoming knowledge is what? What is your history of biology former training, and genetics and things like that? Did you take AP biology?
I didn't take high school level biology.
Did you take college biology?
No. I took physics.
Yeah.
So everything you know about biology pretty much comes from Reddit.
Yeah, just from
Yeah.
digging around on the internet.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Digging around on the internet. All right.
And that's
So how'd Mark do?
he did great. I mean, I think he did very similar to you were giving the same sorts of answers I hear from my students.
Yeah,
So,
but I mean that was it was really just
It's meant to kind of help you along the way.
can
and
you
not be
listen
too
to
difficult.
things and
reason it out,
yeah.
right? Yeah, it's just what it's about. It's about reasoning things out.
Yeah.
So Mark, do you think that doing an activity like that is just, would you rather just read it in the book and be like, fine? Or is it like is it more helpful to have the information presented in that sort of like style? What do you think?
I think that depends on the person.
What about for you?
Yeah, for you.
For me, I would say that's better than just reading in a book. But I don't know if that justifies how much longer it takes.
Fair enough. Sounds good. All right. What is Mike Loberdick's little symbols there? How'd you do that? That's pretty impressive.
What are
He made some little like male and female symbols somehow. Warning labels, right? I
Twitch has a ton
learned.
of
Yes.
things.
Wait, that wasn't on Twitch though.
No.
Yeah, Twitch is purple. We all need more Darwinism in this world. I learned nothing since I missed all the streams, says Greg. Greg, shame on you. Looking around and marking your family for death at the funeral. You and you. Oh, look how cute. I wonder if they are going to bury her in that dress. Or, Yeah, like you just sit around like, hey, go up to all those people over there and get them to do this and see if they like gross you out or something. Run back and tell me. Or just make a little card. If you can do this, you're gonna die. Don't play.
Well, not everybody
You're not gonna die.
dies
You're
of
right.
Marfan
Just
syndrome.
try to take it real easy. Stop. Are you a runner? Well, you need to sit the fuck down.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you need to take it easy on your
people
aorta.
who have it, they can adjust their lifestyle, and that's why it's a good example of something that you can go to a genetic counselor, find out if you really have it, and then adjust your life accordingly.
Mark, if you had Marfan syndrome, and you therefore had a basketball scholarship and you were drafted to play for the NBA, you were going to make $5 million a year playing basketball. You're super excited about it. But then, dun, 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 at the funeral for Uncle Pete, one of these bratty ass kids ran up to you and was like, "Hey, Uncle Mark, you have Marfan syndrome. Oh, you're gonna die." Would you continue playing basketball for the NBA, which is a little stressy on the aorta?
Is there any treatment for it at all?
Yeah, stop playing basketball. You'll be
That's
fine.
it.
Can you get like a little
I don't know.
aorta like elastic stent
Yeah,
or
I don't
something?
know. It's a good question. As far as I
Seems
know,
dangerous.
the only medical treatment is monitoring. They look for signs that it's starting
To crack,
enlarge and like there's a spot that's like bulging out or whatever.
Yeah, I guess it depends on what my life is like right then. Because if it's like what actual life was like for me at like entering college age,
Yep.
then I would definitely be willing to risk it for a couple of years.
Alrighty, there you go. Okay.
Basic question, is
But
it
Professor Mark.
associated when they,
now I wouldn't.
if they ask if you have a familial history of drowning? Like if you go to the cardiologist, you fill it out, says do you have a history of drowning?
Really?
Because there's some defect that people just mysteriously drown.
Yeah.
And because something happens with their heart.
Yeah, it's
stress.
probably.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's one of the. That's one of the, I remember reading about a guy who was like a diver who
High tech.
Yeah, they-
died of this.
They think something,
Mark would go out in a blaze
there.
of glory.
Paul Daniels. That's
Hedge your bets. Play for a year, collect $5 million, and then back out.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, if the NBA found out that you had Marfan, you wouldn't be getting that $5 million anymore.
Oh, I am so sorry.
But I
Mark
would
Shaver
get it
does not
before they
really.
found out.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
They can't take it back.
Would you? All right. Follow up question. Would you kill the cousins running around at this Uncle Pete's funeral
So he doesn't tell
so that
anybody.
they don't blab you out about Marfan syndrome?
I've been
Cost you $5 million.
No, I would look
They're
into-
kind of assholes.
I would look into ways to sterilize them without them knowing.
No, all they have to do is tell.
They just have to tell.
They have to say, Uncle Mark has Marfan syndrome. They have to post that on social media.
Wait.
Uncle Mark is kind of an asshole. He's going to keep playing for the NBA even though he has Marfan syndrome, which is obvious from the fact that he can do this.
No.
And look at him play the piano.
I wouldn't tell. Nobody would know.
Your cousins know you're at the funeral.
No,
they're
they were
going to
just-
suss it out
they-
from this
no.
little vignette.
They were just talking about whether or not they should go and tell the cousins. The cousins don't know yet. The cousins are
All
probably
right,
dumb.
Chris
too.
knows. Chris is going to rat you
I
out.
thought in this scenario I am Chris.
God bless it. I think
So
anybody that ever hears the word Marfan syndrome is going to suss out that who else in the family
Yeah.
is likely to go down. But what do I know? So you'd have to extinguish all of them. You'd have to kill them all. And the genetic counselor. in order
I'm
to
pretty
hang
sure
on
the
to that.
NBA would be looking for Marfan syndrome these days too.
Yeah, they probably do. That's
probably
called
figure
putting
that
out a contract. Pay the cousins off. Yeah,
They're
you get
not
pay.
going to.
Yeah, see, Paul Daniels is a smart guy.
Yeah.
Pay the cousins off.
There,
you go.
yeah,
Exactly. That's right. I will give you $5,000. No way, fucker! You're making $5 million. 100 grand.
I thought where you were
Or-
going with that was like completely separate from the basketball thing. Would you go and kill them so that they don't reproduce and keep?
No. We don't
people
care
with-
if they reproduce.
with Marfan
Here's
syndrome.
how you know whether or not your interactive vignette is really a success. Have this same dude do one last question that says, and now for just a follow-up question, just to kind of poll around, and then kind of put this whole like basketball scenario and would you kill the cousins? Just like say it like that, and just be like, yes, I would have them. I would try to pay them off. B, no, that's wrong. C, I would start Googling how to put a hit on someone.
I think that's the follow-up discussion we have in class the next day.
Okay, fine. Because I think then like you would know when people came in going, that like homework thing, the last question, that was a little weird. And if they didn't say anything, then
It could be
they
a
just kind
clicker
of like
question when they
through.
first come in to see if they did the
Oh yeah, the
assignment, right?
clickers. Yeah, I remember
You would
the
go on the
clickers.
deep web and find out how much it actually costs to hire somebody to kill someone else.
How would
And
you
then
go?
if they demanded more than that as a payoff?
How would you go about setting up a hit on someone?
There's like auction sites, like the one everybody's
Like
heard of
what?
is Silk Road, but it's
What?
been shut down. But there's stuff like that still out there where
We get a lot of payments from Silk Road Telecom.
what?
We get a lot of PayPal payments from somebody called Silk Road Telecom.
Oh well,
Is that
probably not related. That guy's in jail.
okay?
Yeah.
Dead men tell no tales. All
That's
right.
right.
So how many kids have learned they have Marfan syndrome from taking this interactive thing?
None.
Yeah. Has anyone in your experience come through any genetics class and kind of learned of their own personal, some kind of, trait even through taking the class?
Not that I
Like any of these things, like AB
Yeah.
blood type, my parents are O. What the fuck? Like anything like that.
Yeah. I think that has happened. Not to me personally, but yeah.
This is impossible.
People have had things like that happen.
Yeah.
Um,
See, that's what this whole secrecy thing is. So what?
Yeah, I mean, I think people have to be willing to. You have to understand that you might find out stuff about your family that you weren't prepared for.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes people find out that their grandfather wasn't really their grandfather or
Mhm.
something like that.
Mhm.
And what the hell was that all about? And you don't,
Mhm.
so, or that, some relative is not really related.
Mm-hmm.
So those sorts of skeletons in the closet can be brought out by this sort of thing. So it's not just about your medical history, it's also your family history.
Yeah,
and
your
that,
family
I
social
think,
history.
is also
That's right.
a sensitive issue.
All right.
All right.
I think we're done.
I think so.
So that's all
So
for
I hope
us
you
on
all learned
genetics.
something today.
Yes, I'm sure that. Let's see how many. I want to click over here
How many
and see
people were watching?
if anybody's even watching this at all. Whoa, 45 people. Wow, look at that. I'm surprised. Sorry, 45 people. We have to go. Please direct all of your questions about genetics to Dr. Newman of RIT. She loves to get mail, and I'm sure that she would love for you to tell her. Honestly, though, this kind of YouTube is kind of a fun format. If you struggled with learning, teaching and learning issues in biology or genetics, if something ever spoke to you that you kind of, I always love this one little trick, anecdote, or fun kind of puzzle or something like that, then comment below if there was anything that really kind of spoke to your ideas, because her research has shifted as she's worked at a college that really does focus on teaching. So Dina does a lot of classical bona fide genetics research, finding associations between disease and specific sequences in the genome. But as time has gone on, she's sort of shifted more into the research of teaching and learning. And so does things like come up with this little interactive vignette to kind of ask the question, how can we do better at teaching complex topics and making them more interactive and making them less passive and less boring and less and lectures just kind of talking at you. So if you have ideas, then comment below and we'll check back and read those. Anything else you want to add?
No, that sounds good
Nope.
to me.
Alrighty. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Yeah. All right.